Om Brahmanandam Param Sukhadam Kevalam Jnanamurtim Dvandvatitam Gagan Sadrisham Tattvamasya Laksham Ekam Nityam Vimalamachalam Sarvadhi Sakshi Bhutam Bhavatitam Tirgunirahitam Sadgurum Tam Namami. Om. Adorations to Sadguru, who is Brahman, the giver of supreme bliss, embodiment of pure consciousness, one without a second, vast as the ether, infinite, eternal, beyond the three gunas and their modifications, the supreme preceptor. Yoga Vasistha, Stithi Prakarana, section 54 and 55. Sage Dashura continued to impart spiritual teachings to his beloved disciple, the son of the forest goddess. And Sage Vasishtha is overhearing these stories, these lessons. That's the mystical setup. And what he heard, he is conveying it to Rama. Now focus on the teachings. Teachings are the main point. The teachings are focused on the role of sankalpa. Sankalpa is translated as your resolve, your will. The term will can be used in the smallest of projects. You have a will to make the tea. You have a will not to eat, to fast. These are all small little sankalpas. But in this context, what you are being given is the profound nature of sankalpa. Soul sankalpa is of two types. Under the influence of ignorance, your sankalpa is to maintain your illusion of your individuality. Your sankalpa is to live on. Based on that sankalpa, that's the blessing you give to people. May you live long, long. There's no harm in that blessing. But if one lives only a long life without pursuing the purpose of life, then that's a terrible dull-wittedness. But coming back to the main point, the second type of sankalpa, when the mind has become mature by spiritual practice, has developed a whole setting, good samskaras, purified understanding emanating from the mind, intellect has become purified, ego has become humbled. In that setting, the sankalpa that develops in your soul may attain liberation. May I say goodbye to this world of illusion. Because the world remains like a mirage, No matter how many embodiments you have gone through, you are never satisfied. And no matter how long you live, you will be never satisfied. No matter how many times you have eaten and go on eating, you will be never satisfied. And no matter how many times you commit the same mistake, you will never correct it. So therefore, profound sankalpa is not to come back, not to be embodied as a human being, not to stay embodied. That's profound sankalpa, it's sat sankalpa. Sankalpa that's to attain realization of the self. Self is sat. Truth is nothing but yourself. And that self alone is reality. And sankalpa is to have all illusions about the self. Idea, I am this body, this personality, living in a particular place, the time when you were born, even though you don't never see it. all that is not real. Now, to understand sankalpa, having understood there are two types of sankalpa. Sankalpa that leads you to come back again and again. And sankalpa that leads you to enlightenment. How to shift this erroneous sankalpa to a profound form of sankalpa. The profound sankalpa is instinctive in your soul. The other type of sankalpa you have to create by karma. That should give you a relief. Because your profound nature is spontaneous. That which is sickly nature created by ignorance, that's not natural. So ultimately, the negative aspect will not survive, will not stay on. The day you become really healthy, swastha, profoundly, abide in the self, that movement towards true health. I'm not talking health in the ordinary way. True health is the soul to realize I am that. That movement is as easy as we open the window and the light comes in. Karmic movement is complex. Wait for the Christmas time. Buy lots of illuminations and fix them up. It requires a lot of designing and a lot of different bulbs. Give me a long extension. But all illuminations you create, they're not forever. Soon you will dump them out. Another most important point, sankalpa, you don't know what is your sankalpa. Ordinary sankalpa, you know that you have made up your will to take a trip. Or everyday life, you have made up you go on making up your decisive attitude. This is what I want to do. But that is not the sankalpa we are talking about. Understand, simple point is brought in the scriptures that when a person dies, even when he is dying, he is led by sankalpa to go into another embodiment. That sankalpa that develops, he himself didn't know. And sometimes he may not be able to have a conscious understanding of his own sankalpa. All times people don't die with certain expression in their mouths or certain expression in their mind. Suddenly, to give you a parable, you see, a religious-minded merchant engaged himself in business. But while doing his business, he learned how to make many tricks or how to secure his life. So with that type of mentality, to secure that last stage when he is about to die, he will be uttering the divine name. So every relative of his, especially his sons, he gave divine name to each one of them. Rama, Lakshmana, Bharata, Shatrugna, Krishna, Madhava. And when he was about to die, he starts looking at his sons. And he goes on saying, Lakshmana, Bharata, Rama, Krishna, all that. That suddenly like, last moment he says, but who is watching over the shop? The shop. With that he died. It's part of all the plan you had created to have a divine name in the end. You didn't succeed. So the last sankalpa is not within your control. And also profound sankalpa is not a matter of a conscious, it is not in just conscious level. To give you a simple way to understand, suppose there is a boat in a river, and there are people who have put rope to tie the boat. Rope in the east direction, rope in the west, rope in the north, rope in the south. And all are exerting their influence on the boat. And boat suddenly starts choosing a pathway that none of them had imagined. The resultant of the pull takes its own course. Similarly, your mind works upon your desire from many angles. And all those angles, they are like ropes. One type of project you had, and one type of attitude, you changed it. But that attitude stays in your unconscious, pulling a rope. You adopted another attitude, there is another. Out of all these, a resultant begins to develop. And that resultant is what leading your soul to a certain direction. That happens if you are under karmic law. If you have not attained enlightenment, you are being led by karma. So, your last sankalpa will direct your soul to the next embodiment. Your last sankalpa will not be something you desire out of your normal mind, but something that comes up and you have no choice. You just follow it. But you have created that situation. You are not being forced. If you are cautious in daily life, if you are integrating your personality, then your aspiration will be more in tune with the truth. That is to say, truth is not to come back, attain realization. That aspiration, that Godward movement becomes your sankalpa. All other sankalpas, all other desires begin to fade away. Yet it may appear that you are busy with the same type of life, but your heart-based movement becomes different. And that becomes Sat-sankalpa. People who are highly advanced, purified, enlightened, they are being led by Sat-sankalpa. And Sat-sankalpa is your ideal. The will to realize, who am I? Otherwise, countless types of sankalpa. Every individual, giving an allegorical setting, all individual souls are like so many reflected suns in so many jars of water. Water is the mind. And every soul is in a different predicament. No two jars are alike. No two water contents are of the same exact quality. Therefore, every soul, every reflected sun has a long story, deals with a whole universe through its limited mind. On the basis of dealing with that setup, now allegorically, it's a limited type of presentation. In a little higher level, every soul is like the reflected sun, but it has also the potentiality to do self-effort. Self-effort blends with grace. If you do self-effort under spiritual guidance, with sincerity, self-effort is focused on how to allow integral yoga to be practiced in your daily life. That I have explained, and I will go on explaining more and more. So if you are harmonizing in daily life and doing your effort, you find that you take up a job. In the beginning, you don't have the whole understanding. But since you have faith behind your job, faith behind your project, I'm not talking about just a worldly job. Even worldly jobs become successful by grace. But deeper job of your inner advancement, grace makes it easier. It becomes spontaneous, like a miracle. So, as self-effort and grace continue to operate, your sankalpa within your heart begins to shift. Not the world, liberation. O child, destroy the mind with the help of the mind. This wrong type of sankalpa that comes through the mind, that mind, dump it. And who dumps it? By your own mind. Mind creates a higher level and lower level. The higher mind controls the lower. Higher self controls the lower self. It is sankalpa of the mind that gives rise to erroneous notion that the world is real. It is the sankalpa that has assumed all the names and forms that abound in the world. Based on sankalpa in your mind, you are experiencing the world exactly on the basis of your sankalpa, exactly on the basis of your own mind. That's not difficult to understand. Just like all that you experience in your iPad is on the basis of how you have planned the iPad. You have set up your program in the iPad. So all that comes in the iPad, you have allowed it. Now, while you have allowed it, you have also the ability to delete it, dump it, create new ones. But the iPad is your whole world in your office. Keeps you in touch with the whole world. You don't have to go anywhere else, just fingertips. Similarly, your nervous system, your brain, that little brain and crude nerves, that's all this world is bringing about. All the fanciful and most mysterious and amazing, suspenseful, and all types of thrill. The universe of past, present, and future. All that is coming out of a little iPad. Not a small eye, big eye. And naturally, therefore, all this is not the reality. First stage, improve your iPad. Don't crowd it with unnecessary files. And second, allow the sankalpa to develop, may I attain liberation. And then move away from your iPad. Therefore, take recourse to the repeated practice of the negation of the world. Find in your iPad all those files that you have collected about the world and go on dumping them. Jokingly I'm saying. But the idea is, listen to the teachings. Allow your mind not to be trapped all 24 hours with your ego and with your worries and anxieties relating to the world around you. Allow your mind to have some space of relaxation done by your yoga exercises, meditation, relaxation, and doing sattvic deeds. Mind gets certain space. You're in that space. Become like a lion, roar. Nothing exists. Nothing belongs to me. I'm neither mind nor body, immortal self. But this process must go on until you really become a lion. Let your mind reflect over the illusoriness of the world, and let your intellect understand that there is nothing but the self as the reality behind all names and forms. All you are experiencing through your conditioned mind, nothing of that is real. All the cinema show you are seeing while chewing upon popcorns, all that show is not real. Now, therefore, understand that underlying the show, there is nothing but the screen. That screen remains untouched by the story. The story brings out a situation of great comedy, joyousness. The screen has nothing to do with it. It brings about great tragedy, storms and hurricanes and lot of catastrophe. Not a trace goes on the screen. So, try to develop a sense of Leela. Leela means a kind of a sport. All this that goes on, nothing is real. Now you can handle all situations coming into your cinema show with a peaceful mind. Pleasure, pain, gain, loss. And you are ultimately, you are coming to a state when all show which is projected by your mind, as long as mind is conditioned, it goes on projecting a show. When mind becomes enlightened, it stops projecting. Then what happens? The screen type, the substratum, the source begins to shine through your mind. Mind begins to reflect that. That's called Brahmakara vritti. Otherwise, mind's movement called Vishayakar. Mind is always creating objects of the world. But now, mind, having understood all objects, the world of time, space, causation being illusory, mind stops. The attention moves away from projection. And then the reality shines. Now the mind has, through that state, the mind brings you liberation. Same mind that causes your bondage, through Brahmakara vritti, through that state where it begins to reflect the screen itself, not the projections. And projections, once you view them as illusion, it doesn't matter whether it is there or not. But this state is a matter of repeated practice, abhyasa and vairagya. Again and again you have to allow your mind to listen to the divine truth. Again and again enjoy the truth. Again and again fake tigers roar. In this way, you will not entertain thoughts of objects. Your mind will not be fascinated by worldly enjoyments. Whenever your mind relaxes, it will go after this subtle taste of peace entered in your mind. Subtle taste of strength when you are roaring like a lion. You would develop different type of taste. Instead of taste for worldly enjoyment, taste for spiritual experiences. That taste is so profound that your sankalpa becomes involved. Once that higher taste becomes your dominating feature, whether you know it or not, you have developed a sankalpa to attain enlightenment. Learn even from animals, birds. Little flies that have tasted honey. Once they have tasted honey, you don't have to worry. They will go after the honey. In this way, you will not entertain thoughts of objects. The sankalpas of the mind will gradually fade into non-existence. Sankalpas referring to sankalpa for coming back into the world. And different set of karmas will create different types of sankalpas. How do you want to come back? Come back in Alaska, in Mexico, in India, in farmer's home, or a musical personality, or in the house of a big mathematician, or a scientist, or a doctor. Think of it. And if you want to expand your mind further, you want to come into the den of tigers, foxes, the nests of birds, hollows of snakes. This is not all ridiculous. This is perfectly real as the world. Every soul has gone through. Every pet of yours is same human soul. It's led by karma into another embodiment. So let that sankalpa arise, which effaces all sankalpas for the world. Consequently, you will not be subject to pleasure and pain. Now there will be good news, consider good news or bad news. Because I'm joking. This is the best news. The world does not give you any real thrill within your soul. The only way you get the thrill to realize the world is nothing but Brahman. But then you are not desiring the world. Otherwise, if your thrill is based upon the happenings of the world, happenings are always in the form of pleasure, pain, gain, loss, elation, depression, birth and death. If you are involved in that, then that is the form of ignorance, and that's to be negated. Just as when a spark is fed with a straw, it grows into a blazing fire. In the same way, when the sankalpa of the mind is fed with petty enjoyments of the world, it grows into the blazing fire of pain and sorrow. Let me explain to you in a more easier way to understand. Here, sankalpa, as I have explained to you, can be any, even a small little idea, let me drink tea, is your sankalpa. But that little sankalpa, another term is vritti. There is a chain to be understood. Samskaras are the subtlest impressions in your unconscious. Out of those samskaras, some samskara that is effective, they bring out sprouted samskaras. They are called vasana. Samskaras are in deep unconscious. Vasanas are in subconscious. Just like in the farm, some seeds are so deep, they are waiting for 3 or 4 years later to germinate. And then there are some seeds that are already putting their nose out of the soil, sprouting. The sprouting ones, they are like vasanas. Out of those vasanas, now you begin to see the sprout coming up. If you don't like that sprout, this is the time, push it out. In vritti state, put it in a more mature way, out of your samskaras, vasanas arise. If your vasanas are mixed, vasanas are always mixed up. Now, if you have subtle intellect, certain degree of vivek, you will recognize the vritti. Little idea, little desire is coming. You have seen a drunken house, the house of drinking, and the desire has come. Immediately, you check the desire and go to satsanga, do something else. Then it's an easy job. But if you delay, you say to yourself, all right, today I must have it. shop is right nearby. I can even smell. Later I will work upon it. What's there to have few drinks? So many people are laughing. I will also laugh. No harm in it. So when we allow that vritti to be nourished, now you have become drunken, now you don't worry about that vritti. You day by day go on until you become addicted. Now it is a big trouble. Vritti has become a big fire. First it was just a little spark in your house. And now it has taken the form of blazing fire. Now it is not easy to do it. So what happens? Samskara, from samskara comes vasana. Vasana, vritti. At vritti level, if you don't control it, then it becomes desire. Desire that in the beginning you may control it, but now it controls you. Desire becomes trishna, craving. You rave for your crave. And that leads you to karmas. Now under influence of craving, lots of karmas you create. And all those karmas, they bring about their results, called bhoga. Pleasure, pain, and experiences that are positive and negative. They create their impressions. Impressions go back into your unconscious. The cycle goes on and on. Samskara, vasana, vritti, kama, desire, trishna, craving, karma, and result of karma. And out of the result, samskaras. In this whole cycle process, the only vulnerable point is the vritti state, when it's coming to your mind. At that time, if you have allowed your mind to follow through spirituality, you stop it. Stopping a vritti is very little job. Just like a little spark is there, you are bold enough, by your own fingers you touch the spark. But when it has become fire, now you have to call fire department. When the sankalpa of the mind, the little sankalpa, vritti of the mind, is fed with the petty enjoyments of the world, it grows into the blazing fire of pain and sorrow. And just as the spark were to be crushed into its initial stage, there would be no need to fight the angry flames. That's what I have explained. If you crush the spark, you don't wait for the flames. If one were to withdraw his attention from the tiny sparks of desire that float into the conscious plane of the mind, the growth of sankalpa would be arrested and eradicated. If the impurities of the world were as real as black soot, who would have succeeded in washing them away? Another point now being brought out, which is very important. The negativity that you fight within yourself, it doesn't have any substance. It is short-circuited energy. Short-circuited energy creates a lot of trouble. But when you correct the trouble, you don't find where the short circuit has gone. You fight anger, etc. And because anger is eradicated, you don't find lying down like a dead body. If all the negativity were real, and if you have controlled them, but what happens? You have a big garage of all those dead negativity. Not just garage, is a part of your personality, is sticking to you. That's what they watch it. Impurity of the world were real, as black soot. You will find yourself, even if you have conquered them, they are no longer fire, but the soot is there. So the more you have overcome fire, more soot. Not fashionable suit, black suit. Everyone will be moving with tremendous covering of black, saying, look how much blackness I have taken out. And go viral. So all the negative that you cast out, they go nowhere, because there is no substance in it. Since these impurities are like husks of illusion, they are husks. Sometimes you go into the garden or look by a lake, and the light reflects. And the reflected light in the lake works with shimmering leaves. And then what you see, illusion of light floating in the sky. Good to see, but there is nothing there. So impurities are like that, just reflections. O child, neither are you related to this world, nor is it related to you. So Vasishtha is not dealing with relationships. Dealing with the ship itself. This world is like a big ship. That world has no reality. It's real for your nerves, for your senses, but you are not nerves or senses. The real you is the self. And this reality again is an illusion created by your conditioned mind. Just like you create reality in your dream. In your dream, how does it quickly does it? In fact, no one is your relative, nor are you anyone's relative. knowing this, perceive the illusoriness of objects. Do not entertain sankalpa for the illusory objects of the world, but rather adopt the transformed sankalpa for self-realization. That sankalpa is transfigured sankalpa, not ordinary sankalpa. Ordinary sankalpa is already explained, all types of perishable attainments. But the healthy sankalpa is, may I attain liberation. This is the mystic art of discovering the infinite bliss of the self. Sri Vasishtha said, O Rama, thus did I listen to the wondrous teachings of sage Ashura. And then I, even like a cloud descending on a hilltop, descended on the summit of the Kadamba tree to meet the glorious sage. Sage Ashura welcomed me with devotional offerings of flowers, fruits, and water. Then we both conversed on the nature of Brahman. After enjoying the beauty of the Kadamba tree, I proceeded to the heavenly regions. And with this we'll stop. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om.